All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Mouthful with Marcus. Today, we're going to dive into the world of Aaron Palmer, the host of one of Australia's biggest YouTube channels for barbecue, and also one of my competitors from last year's season of My Kitchen Rules. Together, Aaron and I chat about building brands, handling online criticism, and also discover some hot tips on what it takes to succeed in content creation. It was a lot of fun and, as usual, resulted in a bunch of value that you guys can take with you into your daily lives. So tune in as we grill up the recipe for success. Barbecue, grilling success for just, all right, I'll see you soon. Have fun. Bye. Aaron, the way I want this podcast to be is I want the audience to get to know you.
Yep.
I think you have a pretty good story. I love the stuff that you make. Obviously we had a pretty cool experience last year on
Definitely.
TV. I want them to get to know you. So we're going to start probably from the start.
Yep.
But first, who are you? What do you do? What is your business? Run me through it.
So I'm Aaron Palmer. I basically do YouTube full time. That's probably the bulk of what I do. So creating educational videos, anything from how to smoke a brisket to how to cook a steak, ribs, pulled pork, and all the sort of side dishes in between. So creating educational videos is the bulk of it. And then I've got a range of barbecue rubs as well. I've got 6 rubs and a barbecue sauce that are in, I think, 100 plus stockists around Australia and New Zealand. And then I've just launched a website, and then there's lots of sort of different little things that branch off.
So food's the main umbrella. You're a big
mainly
food guy.
barbecue. Yeah.
I like the idea, and I've watched your content before, Aaron. I like that going down the teaching route has been a big way, not just to spread good food with the world, but like, you know, the first thing that comes to my mind is I look back on my favorite teachers through high school. And sure, I might not have gone down the academic route with my business, but I look at the shaping and the big impact that my favorite teachers have had on me.
Yeah.
Don't you think it's cool that like your business exists to not just improve people's experience with food, but like, let's say you teach them a really good pulled pork recipe, and they try it and they share it with their friends or they share it with their family. They've got a positive experience that they will remember.
Yeah.
Like your lessons are giving people not just good nutritional sustenance, you're giving them good vibes.
It's really rewarding. Like when you get feedback from someone who's gone through your video, they've tried it for themselves, and they say, wow, I'd never thought I'd be able to make pulled pork or do this roast pork or whatever it is, brisket, ribs, whatever. Like just getting feedback from people who have watched your videos, tried it for themselves, and had success that's why I do it.
I think one of the big things we'll talk about in this podcast is obviously your journey online, how you've built things into what you are. But one thing I really respect and I even relate to about you is that, you know, you might go to a restaurant, and anyone working hospitality understands that, you know, when you're either a chef or you're serving the tables, the whole point of hospitality is to share and give that love through food. I love that by doing it the way you've done it online, you're able to share it at scale.
Yeah.
Millions of people have seen what you've cooked,
Yeah.
and hundreds of thousands or however many people have tried your recipes. Like, sure, you might not be in a restaurant directly serving the plate, but you sure as heck, like your pulled pork has been tasted by people all around the world. Yeah, I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's cool when you put it like that and think about the reach it has and the impact on people's lives. It literally changes people's lives. I mean, a lot of guys move out of home and they don't know how to cook. They'll go to charcoal barbecues or whatever the case may be. And it's good that I've inspired people to get out of their comfort zone or just get cooking and create meals which can only have a positive impact on their life because they're putting food on the table for their family.
Well, you think about how big food is in any human's life. Like we all eat, right? And how much of your day is dictated by putting food in your mouth, thinking about what food you're going to put in your mouth, thinking about how you feel after you put that food in your mouth. Like food dictates our lives in a way. It's part of our survival, but obviously part of, you know, the recreational side as well. And what I mean to say is like, if you can make that part of people's lives better, the flow on effect is just huge.
Like I'm thinking about my next meal already.
I like the idea that we can, both you and I, especially you, can be a part of improving that for people. And, you know, good food means, I just think the best experiences in my life have always been around the dinner table.
Absolutely.
So if that can spread around the world, that's sick. Speaking of, I want to know how this started for you. Why is food special to you? How did your relationship with food begin?
So I guess this is sort of 2 parts. There's the food part and then the teaching part. So the food part started probably when I was around like 13, 14 and just watching mum in the kitchen and just naturally gravitating towards what she was doing, how she was doing it. I think I started making a pasta with her at a very young age, and then it just progressed from there, making different dishes and just evolved into what it is now. So after that, my first job was a cleanup boy in a butcher shop at Woolworths. And then they offered me an apprenticeship and I got into becoming a butcher and just kept involved with more meat, but food in general.
So
just wanting to like educate my customers on how to cook meat. And then it got into like the sides you can go, like you can cook with that meat, and it just kept evolving throughout the years.
So it happened very organically. Like obviously
Yeah.
I can really relate to that. My mum
Yeah.
taught me everything about food
Yeah.
at the start, especially, you know, her mum taught her, my mum taught me, but I like the idea that like, sure, you might have just been doing that for fun with your mum, right? And then it's slowly but surely been a pillar in your life, even through your first job as a butcher. The reason I say that is obviously it sounds like you've been doing food for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
It's your career now. How has that relationship with food impacted your life?
Oh, like massively. Like it is my life right now. It's how I make an income. It's how I pay bills. It's everything now. It's yeah, I can't like never thought I would be doing this full time in food.
Well, I think the key is, and we'll talk about it later in the podcast, the key, and we talked about this at length, the idea that you would have been doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And of course it's your career then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that organic flow on is really, really cool. This one's a pretty specific one. If something can come to your head quickly,
here we go.
This could be a good one. What have you learned from food that you apply to everything else in your life?
I think patience. Like a lot of things require patience, and I'm not a patient person. So food has taught me a little bit of patience. I'm still not a patient person, but food has definitely taught me you need some patience in life.
I'm the most opposite patient person when it comes to cooking.
Yeah.
But you're right. A lot of the values that you learn through, like even just one of the big ones that I have in my life is like show up.
Yeah.
Even if it sucks, if you suck, if the situation sucks, no matter what, just like rock up to the thing that you want to try. Don't worry about how you do it, the thing you want to try. Don't worry about if it's perfect. Don't worry about if it's your first try or your second try or your third try. Just make sure you're there.
Yeah.
And with food, like same as life, it's always trial and error. You might make mistakes. Your food might end up tasting shit. It might be a new recipe that you don't know how to do. I'm telling you, you'll be 100% more likely to get it right if you just give it a crack than if you just didn't give it a crack.
Michael Jordan said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Bang. I was going to give it the budum-sh, but that is a really good call.
Might as well.
Okay. Budum-tush. Point is, yeah, very, very well said. Okay. So the next sort of line of questioning I've got here is, it says, ask about his line of work prior to being a full-time person who does food as a career.
Yep.
No doubt you've mentioned that you were a butcher. What I wanted to go to was, what was the hardest thing about the life you were living prior to living full-time off of content creation?
I guess the hardest thing, like working the normal sort of job, was having the time to produce the content. And from a very young age, I always thought that working 5 days a week and like 40 hours a week for the good part of your life, like I thought that was crazy. And I was obsessed with finding a way out of it. And now I've sort of achieved it. But that was a hard part, is just working all those hours. And then when I did want to start something on the side, it's like, where am I going to get the time for it?
It's crazy that to get this lifestyle of how can I work less per week, I'm going to need to work more than triple per week to get there.
Yeah, it's a funny concept, but that's how you've got to do it. So unfortunately,
you grinded to build that foundation to get yourself where you are.
Yeah, but it's funny saying that, because at the same time, I never started this to make money off it. It just happened to work out that way. Like I was, at the time before all of this, to get out of that 9 to 5, I was sort of going down like the crypto and stock sort of path, thinking that was the way out. And then I just so happened to start this because I enjoy teaching others and educating others. And this is just how it worked out, luckily.
Can you give the audience, because at this point, I don't even know you yet. I only met you last year, right? What does it look like? And let's just take it doesn't even, you could have been a butcher, you could have been an accountant, you could have been a hairdresser. It doesn't matter. Let's just say 9 to 5. So it's more relatable to the people listening, right? What does it physically look like at that stage to be going from your 9 to 5 job to coming home? Like you mentioned it earlier not in the podcast, but earlier before, maybe it was in round 1 when we weren't recording.
Probably.
Going home from that full day of work to then just work more to make the thing on the side work. Can you tell me what your day looked like? What did that process of building look like at the start? So
at the time I was working rotational shifts. So I was a butcher, and then Woolies made all their butchers redundant around the country. So I chose to take a redundancy package. They wanted to keep me on as the fruit and veg manager. And I chose to take a redundancy package, ended up getting a job at a winery in a management position. And that was rotational shifts. So I was working.
Still hospo as well, by the way.
Yeah,
at least you're around food.
Yeah. And the wine industry was very eye-opening. That was a good industry to get into, actually. But I was doing a week of arvos, week of nights, week of day shifts. And basically the only week I could do any content was afternoon shift, because I'd start work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'd get up really early, do school drop off for the kids, come back, do as much content as I can. And that would get me ahead, because I couldn't produce content on night shift because I was just a zombie. Sometimes I'd be able to do it if I felt all right. And then day shift, I'd get home, I'd have to cook dinner, kids, all that. So I'd never, ever have time to produce content on day shift. So
one thing I really like about that just right there is it's very relatable in the sense of you're making, whether it's kids, whether it's other financial responsibilities, family, a partner, you had responsibilities. These were real life responsibilities that you have to attend to, right? And a lot of people, and I hear it from a lot of people, they're like, oh, I'd love to pursue my dreams, or I'd love to pursue this idea of mine, but I've got real life to worry about, Marcus. I don't get to post videos of food like you do.
You have to make sacrifices. Like, some people enjoy having their time at night, watching their TV shows or whatever routine you've got to sacrifice some of that if you want to achieve your dreams. It doesn't just...
Yeah, but also there's also this trend these days of, it's like, okay, well, you don't want to work 9 to 5 and you've got a dream to pursue, drop your 9 to 5 right now. You should ditch it all and go all in.
That's just stupid.
It's stupid in the sense of, well, maybe you have kids to look out for. Maybe you've got expenses. What I loved about your story just then is you've acknowledged the responsibility. You've acknowledged that you've got a passion and that you've got a grind that you know is required to build this social media career. And therefore, you are spending every single second moment that you've got spare on that thing. So many people be like, I've got this dream, but I've also got responsibilities. So they'll fulfill their responsibilities. They'll go to work. They'll manage their relationship. They'll manage everything we said as an example. But then when the day's done, they're like, oh, I'll rest up and I'll watch TV or I'll relax until tomorrow because I'm so tired from it. I'm guessing what you're saying is you didn't really acknowledge said tiredness or said stress from other things.
Never watched TV show. Like, just you got to like look at your screen time on your phone, and if you're like, oh, I don't have time to do that, I bet you if you look at your screen time, there's 8, 10, 12, 16 hours on there that you should otherwise be spending achieving your goals if that's what you want to do.
So the hot take pretty much from that little section there of what you're saying is, if you've got a spare moment and you've got something you want, use it. Even if it's only half an hour a day, it'll compound. Just give it a crack.
If you want to go down that path. But if you're happy in your 9 to 5, like what we do is not for everyone. Some people are happy having a routine, having a normal job, and that's fine. We need, if not everyone can be like that. We need them.
One thing to consider and probably flag is that I don't mean that sentiment and I don't mean that set of ideas just for breaking out of the 9 to 5. I mean that for pursuing a hobby. I mean that for pursuing your health. I mean that for pursuing exercise.
And arguably health should be the top priority.
Correct. If the thing you want to pursue, it doesn't just have to be breaking out of the matrix and smashing out a business. Honestly, it could be like building a relationship with your grandma. If you've been meaning to do it and you've always wanted to do it, but you've got real life responsibilities, I'm telling you, there's probably a spare moment in your day. And I'm not saying this as an expert because I get caught out complaining about the exact same thing all the time. Aaron, you saw me running around like a headless chook today just to get this podcast set up because I've come from the office, I've come from work. I bet you if I just woke up 2 hours earlier today.
Exactly.
And then you could say, well, Marcus, you need your sleep. Well, I bet you if I went to sleep 2 hours earlier last night, there's always a solution.
There's always a way. There's always a way.
Speaking of, yes, there's always a way. And yes, it is possible if you put the work in, but sometimes in the early stages, people can be a little bit unsure. Do I even take this risk? Should I even put the time here if it's not going to pay off? I've got a question here. What made you officially take the leap into pursuing an uncommon career full-time? Because jumping from looking at what you do now, sick, right?
Yeah.
And I know it took a lot of work to get there, but you started as a butcher.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Yeah.
What made you jump?
It happened very gradually. So I guess I started the YouTube thing just to help share knowledge with others. And like I said, create content other people can try for themselves. And then when it started, like I never started it to make money. But when it did start making money, I'm like, hang on, we could have something here. So I just stayed consistent. I don't think I missed an upload schedule because I upload videos every Sunday. I don't think I missed an upload weekly for about 6 years.
Wow.
So consistency was massive and the money just kept growing and growing until it did basically match my full-time income.
That's what I was going to ask. What was the moment like? Do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, it was still a risk because I'm like, what happens if the videos just stop performing? And then that's when I thought, maybe I need to create other revenue streams off it. So if it does dip, I can flex up this area. I needed multiple revenue streams to give me confidence that it was going to work.
Correct.
Because it's scary going from a safe full-time job where the employer pays you super, you don't have to worry about tax or anything like that. Yeah. It's scary going from that to managing it all yourself, and you don't get taught all that stuff in school. So it was a big jump. But like I said, when I was having my income matched from what I was doing on YouTube and all the other stuff to what my full-time income from my previous job was, that's sort of when I knew it was time.
I feel like that moment would have been really cool. Where you're like, oh my God, this online posting to YouTube thing has just overtaken my real job. Like, it would have been a cool moment. But I also like, another hot tip here is if you guys are in the process of building a side hustle and you're approaching that point where you're thinking, oh my God, I could probably leave my current job. I'm nearly there. I like the idea that you've almost had your, what's the saying? You've covered your bases well before making the jump. Obviously, like you said, you've got responsibilities, you've got risks, you need the money, you need to pay for the kids, you need to pay for the family. Sure. If you feel like you're ready to jump, maybe just push a little bit further in the right direction.
Make sure you're 100% safe. Like get some financial advice, speak to other experts, speak to other people who have done the same thing, and just, it's a big risk to take. But
well, I commend you on that risk. I think it's awesome.
And it wasn't a quick journey either. I didn't even make money on YouTube for like the first 2.5 years. And then it started going.
That's why I commend you even more because you did this being older. I mean, you're much older than me, but being older with more responsibilities than me. A lot of people commend me for what I've done and how I've been able to generate a full-time income. But I'm also a young lad that's like got next to, I'm still a little
Time's
fucking
on
baby.
your side.
I'm a little baby. I've still got my parents' support. I'm not saying that they cover me and all of my business risk is subsidized because I'm with my parents. It's more, I'm not even going to get into what it costs to run a business. But the point of the matter is that if you're interested in trying something, try it now, because the best day to start is yesterday. And if it's not yesterday, then make sure it's tomorrow, because the earlier I guess what I'm trying to say here in a non-rant way is your responsibilities are only going to stack up as you get older. I've watched my life change in the past 3 years of running the business and the amount of responsibilities I've got now, like people to pay, subcontractors, all of that stuff. I commend you even more for being able to, I can imagine it. I guess what I'm saying is, I can imagine it'd be a lot harder for someone who's older to make that switch. For me, it came second nature. I've been doing this since I was 15.
Yeah, and especially the way technology advanced. Like, I never even owned a computer or camera before all this. So that was like massive. Not growing up using a computer every day or even knowing how to use a mirrorless camera. Like, that was a massive learning.
You're another example of the fact that it's possible. Before we move on to the next topic, and I did just go on a little bit of a fucking mouth fart just then. Sorry, guys. I want you guys to start. And if you're hearing this, if you're thinking about starting something, I really push you. Just do it.
Yep. Couldn't agree more.
Can you paint the picture? Because perhaps not everyone listening is my age. Because right now, like, if I'm talking to other 18 to 23-year-olds, they're like, oh yeah, I can change my life right now. I'm a fucking baby. If there's a 35-plus-year-old person watching and listening, can you paint the picture? I've got a question here. Did much change for you when you found yourself trying this new thing? E.g., changes to your lifestyle or changes to your friendship group or the way you lived your life? Can you paint the picture? Maybe the positives, negatives, things to watch out for.
I think like trying this at I don't want to say older age, because I don't think I'm old.
Back in my day.
Like, it was just getting out of your comfort zone. Like, and that's the only way you'll grow, is by getting out of your comfort zone, trying new things. And I've never been afraid to try new things. And that was at that stage, is the editing, the cameras, the getting used to computers all over again.
Production.
And just trying to make each video better than the last, and just always trying to improve myself, whether it was in the video editing stage, whether it was like production quality or like just anything. It was that was probably the biggest thing, is just growth and getting out your comfort zone.
Did you find, I guess I'm trying to paint the surroundings, the ecosystems, maybe not just you, but what I mean to say is, hey, everyone at the butcher place where I'm working, I'm quitting because I'm going to be a YouTuber.
I wasn't at the butcher place. And
the wine.
Yeah. And the way that sort of worked out is they went through a wave of redundancies there as well.
Oh my God.
So I had my notice ready. I was going to quit, and then they went through redundancies. I'm like, shit, I'm going to get paid to quit, basically.
Again?
So yeah. I mean, I could have stayed on with Woolies. That was the difference. This one was that your job's no longer there. So with Woolies, I could have stayed there, but I chose not to.
Was there I guess I'm really trying to dig and probe at this. Was there anyone around that told you shouldn't? Was there anyone around that told you couldn't?
So I still had to take this on full time regardless of whether I was made redundant or not. And I was made redundant and still had to take this on full time. I didn't look for another job. I could have looked for another job just to stay comfortable and, like I said, like have an employer and feel real safe. But yeah, regardless, I still had to take this on full time. I had to make it work. Like the redundancy wasn't pretty. That was only like 2 or 3 months sort of worth of money. So yeah, I still had to take that jump regardless of that situation. And I was planning to anyway, because that's when it was coincidental at the time. That's when the YouTube money and everything was basically matching my income anyway. So
I want to ask why, but that might lead us in the wrong direction. I guess what I mean to say is maybe perhaps the hot take from this part of the conversation is, guys, back yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
What was the thing that sort of, okay, sure, there was another redundancy. That almost seems like fate's telling you, hey, Aaron, if you weren't going to do YouTube full time, do it full time.
It was good timing because I was going to, like I said, quit anyway.
What do you say to the people who didn't have that strike of fate, which is like, hey, bros, this job's let you go. This job's let you go. You've already got a safe income coming from the YouTube. I think this is a natural transition.
Like you said, back yourself. And if you've got the money coming in from your hobby or other revenue stream, and it's basically matching your current full-time income, then why not take that risk?
Nice.
Or try and take some unpaid leave and work on your business. And once you've got the full-time hours to put into your hobby that you never used to have, what you can achieve is huge. Like once I did take that risk and take it full-time, I had 40, 50 hours a week to put into my business as opposed to 15 to 20 on the side.
Yeah, so good. I think one thing I want to flag to the people who are maybe not so business minded, I've always been around people, and it's because I'm one of those people myself that are like, if you love something and it's a passion of yours, you can definitely monetize it. But the only reason I justify myself saying that is because I love the thing and I'm going to do it anyway. So if I can make a living from it and make that the thing that I do only, 100%. But this may not apply to you if you are someone who just likes to play tennis. I'm not saying you need to go become Nick Kyrgios. It's not always need to be about money, but we in this context are talking about careers and money.
This is relatable to different situations. Like you said, the tennis thing. Like if you just want more time to play tennis, like you can do all of those steps that I took to free yourself up so you can go permanent part-time instead of full-time. So you've got more time to play tennis. And just so we're clear, it doesn't always have to lead to career. It doesn't, you don't, if you enjoy martial arts and you're learning to fight, you do not have to this does not have to lead or end in the UFC, okay? You can just stay at your local club, and if you enjoy it and you find yourself growing and the passion and your belly's on fire, that's a win. Done, tick. Back to money though. Back to money. Sound effect. Can you give the audience context on how your business works? How do you make your living? So the bulk of it is ad revenue off YouTube, which basically means the more views you get, the more ads are shown, and the more ad revenue you get from all the companies that advertise on YouTube. So that's the bulk of it, and that's how it all started out. And then I've been able to do other things off of YouTube, like the barbecue rubs I've mentioned. There's sponsors, there's businesses I work with, and then there's my website, commission sales. There's heaps of different ways.
So essentially what you're doing and what you're saying as an umbrella is very similar to most social media people who live off of social media. You're funneling said attention through monetary streams, whether it's selling your own products, promoting somebody else's products, or simply just letting people promote using your content that yields views and attention. So be it. Okay, that makes sense. And that's very similar to how my business works. I'm sure I might have said this already on the podcast. Essentially, the way I make my money is I run a videography and a photography business that is only around food. I found by niching down and becoming an expert in helping these restaurants helping them market themselves so that they can have more customers has led to me building an overall brand of food in general, where I now make my own products and sell them based around food. I cook, I make content that yields attention, and then from what I learn on that, I then sell it off to the restaurants, and then they bring me. It's I run a very full circle marketing operation for food. This podcast, I guess, being one of them in the long run. But very, very similar. The reason I mention that and bring it up is I want people to kind of understand that this isn't new information now. I know 5 years ago or 6 years ago when I was getting subscribe YouTube logos tattooed on my leg,
I love that.
I always thought to myself, okay, well, David Dobrik and Logan Paul make money off of YouTube. That means it's possible, but they're only the 1%. But I think these days, yes, everyone understands you can definitely make a career on social media, which is why everyone's trying it. But people don't really realize how truly accessible it really is these days. I know when I was getting bullied in high school because I wanted to live off of vlogs. I remember I made my first $12 in
I remember
ad
seeing
revenue.
your first videos.
Yeah.
I loved the hair.
Yeah. Oh God. I remember being in year 11 or year 12. I just cracked 2,000 subscribers and I got approved for ad revenue.
Yeah, wow.
And I made my first $12 and I was like, yeah,
That was big back then, especially in Australia.
And I was like, screw these people that are bullying me. People don't understand I can make money from this. But now if you tell someone I can make money from social media, like everyone knows how it works, right? I've written here, what are the 3 main things you've done on social media that have led to your main growth and therefore growing business? And I say that just because it's clear if you want to make a career out of it, you can do it. But sometimes the way of how is everyone's got advice for it, but you've actually done the thing.
Yeah.
Tell us how you did it.
I think consistency for me has been the biggest thing. Like I mentioned, the 6 years without missing a Sunday upload schedule, it gives my followers my routine, basically. They know when to tune in, which is every Sunday. It was every Sunday at 8:00. It's now every Saturday for anyone who's watching. But consistency and making each video better than the last. Like if you just think your videos are good and that's all you're going to do, you're going to use the same format and not like even just small upgrades, like upgrading my lights over time, the lighting, the camera. I used to use my phone, then I upgraded to a GoPro, then I got a mirrorless camera. You need to make upgrades and improve each video to make it better than the last, like I've said.
Constantly improving.
Yeah, definitely. Otherwise, if you do the same thing, you're going to achieve the same results. So consistency, making each video better than the last. And then, I don't know, the third thing, I don't really have a third thing. Those 2 are probably the most important. So I guess having a crack and trying different things.
I like that they're macro tips that everyone can use instead of getting into the nitty gritties of here's the strategy and here's the level of detail you need to understand about this video form. It's like literally like do the thing and get better at doing the thing each time you do the thing.
Yeah, and make sure you love it. Like if you don't like what you're doing in the content space, it's going to show in your content. And you like when I am barbecuing or I'm cooking, that's my happy place and it shines through in my content. If you're like you see some creators and it's like they're doing it just to make money, it shines through in their content. They're not really enjoying it. It's not really their passion.
And they're not being really who they are.
Yeah, they're not authentic. Yeah.
And that's honest. I mean, you've heard, I'm sure you've heard it before, but that's like the thing people want these days. Like, I used to be so scared to like open up and like show people me doing my weird idiosyncrasies and farting on camera, burping on camera, like anything the things that make me and the things that my friends get to see about me being a hooligan. The more I share it, the more people enjoy it. And you know what? That doesn't mean that everyone loves burping and farting on camera and consuming that content, but it means that for the people who do, they're like, oh my God, I relate to you.
Yeah, just be yourself and you'll find an audience that gravitates towards you. Like I'm not the most charismatic, extroverted person on camera, but I structure my videos in a very educational way that if someone wants to learn,
they will learn.
Yeah, they will learn.
Yeah.
It's not filled with jokes or banter or just things that go on for too long. It's just there to purely educate people.
Guys, I'm going to press this as an ad break just so I can turn my camera back on. Aaron, do you want to speak about something and entertain them for the next 5 seconds?
5 seconds. So if you want to, I think you just pressed a button somewhere.
Guys, again, said it in every podcast. We're in a garage. I don't have a filmer. I'm just makeshifting. This is a reminder that everything you have is everything you need. I'll make it work. It'll get better.
Floating around.
Literally, please remember this podcast 100 episodes from now when we're in a studio and manifest greatness, manifest. Please, please, please. Hopefully this channel grows. But for now, it's me getting up and running ad breaks to change the sound. Anyways, let's get back into it. Now. Sorry, guys. Yeah, that's nearly over. Yeah, it went from being quite the professional and eloquent podcast to a backyard operation again. Anyways.
Here we go.
I'm sorry, Aaron. We were doing quite well.
We were.
Okay. What's been the biggest lesson or misconception you've learned about food content creation since you began your journey?
What a question. The biggest lesson, repeat the question, please.
What's been your biggest lesson or misconception that you've learned about food content creation since you began your journey?
Far out. It's just, the biggest lesson or misconception.
I want to say, would you like my answer? But I know the audience would be like, Marcus, you asked him the question, you douchebag.
I know, it's such a broad question. There's so many things that sort of pop to my head.
Do
Like,
you want me to jog you on one?
yeah, you start. What's yours? What's yours?
Ask me the question, Aaron. The main one that I've learned, obviously, I've done food content full time now for 2 years, and obviously business stuff before then, videography, whatever. The biggest misconception I learned about food is that you being the best cook does not mean that you're the best food content creator. That is the reality of the situation, because at the end of the day, you need to think, okay, yes, if they were at a restaurant and they were trying your food, the food would speak for itself in terms of taste. Your food tastes the best, your experience was great. But what is the taste and experience equivalent on social media when people are scrolling on their screens? It's food that looks the best, food that sounds the best, food that is the most appealing and engaging. So what I've learned is at the end of the day, you could buy the most expensive piece of steak, cover it in gold, cook it in 30 different ways, and then slow cook it this way, and then put it up on your thing, and it took you 30 days to make this 30-second video, and it's the best thing ever. And honestly, you'd go straight to heaven if you ate it.
Yeah.
It could still probably get
That's a good one, because I've seen so many celebrity chefs and high-level cooks start content or start social media, and they just can't grow it. And then you see people with no cooking background start it, but they've got good videography skills. They know how to use a camera, edit, good lighting, and they go viral. And now they're on cooking shows.
Yes, exactly. There are people out there that are quadruple the cooks we are, like you said, and they're doing half the amount of viewership and engagement. It's not just like you said. I like how you've said, you know, like videography, lighting, things to consider about how the stuff looks, but it's also just kind of understanding what people want to watch. Yeah. Like a lot of people will be like, all right, I'm a chef. I'm going to do 60 different cooking techniques, and I'm going to be a snob about all of them. And this is not me throwing shade at chefs, because I respect you guys a lot. And even on our time on MKR, which we'll talk about, chefs have done the work to understand what they do, and they do it out of love. But when it comes to the content creation side, like, just knowing what people like, instantly, I know off the bat, off of doing what I've done, the difference between making a steak and making a steak sandwich is like 100,000 views. Yeah. Just add sandwich to the mix, and suddenly it's more, people love sandwiches. I'm not saying that that's a blanket rule. You do barbecue, you've made a lot of steak, they get a lot of views. I'm just saying what the market wants on social media is very different to what I expected. Yeah, definitely. And I guess a lot of that is how these platforms work. Like, you've found it. Like YouTube, for me, I cannot crack it on shorts. I don't think I've had a video go over like 200,000 views, but Instagram, they go in like the tens of millions. And it's just crazy how all the different platforms work. Speaking of, well, not actually, you know, I'm trying to do this thing, Aaron, where I segue. Segue means like massage in the words that you've said into the next topic of what I'm saying. So like, speaking of doors, I have a new door. That was shit. That was terrible. That was so bad. Okay. Speaking of food, what's your favorite food? Like, that's a segue right there. Yeah. But this was what I'm segueing into is not relevant to what we were saying. I wanted to go back to the money conversation. For people who are already making great content online, which I'm sure there are some watching, what are some of the best ways they can begin generating money and monetizing their platforms? And then I've written, discuss the pros and cons of brand deals versus building your own IP. I don't really do too many brand deals. Like, I don't do the paid collaborations and stuff very often. I think I've done 2 in the last few years. I don't really like to do them because it's just it's taking away from my business sort of thing, and it'll just end up pissing a lot of followers off if you end up doing it all the time. Like, I've created, like I've mentioned, the barbecue rubs, and it really depends on what space you're in and what you can relate to the content that you're producing, I guess. I like the idea. I mean, for some people, like you said, who have responsibilities, if they've got a lot of attention and they really do just want to make cooking videos or fashion videos or beauty videos or sports videos, they just want to focus on the thing that they love doing. So if there's let's say you're an athlete and Powerade approaches you and pays you an X, Y, and Z, sometimes it might make a lot of sense for you to be the athlete who's promoting Powerade. You don't actually have to create the product. You don't have to brand the product. You don't have to worry about manufacturing or selling. You just make the video you make already and integrate the product. I think if you're creating good content, these things will naturally happen, whether it comes from ad revenue from videos, whether it comes from brands who you can work with in your video and do like the long-term like sponsorship type thing instead of the paid collaboration. I think that's a good option. I do that with a couple of good brands. More relationship based than just one time. If it's stuff you're already using, why not
try and make some money off it and work with some good brands and like
so the
scratch each other's
hot
back.
take there, guys, is regardless of what industry you're in or what field you make your content, ensuring that the stuff that you promote is aligned to what you already do is the number 100% key. I did want to transition this though, because I really like that you've got your own rubs. Obviously, I've got my own cookbooks, X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
I like the idea that for the people out there who want to make money in the long run and aren't just looking to pump brand deals, because brand deals have their, like, I'm currently working on a project with
but that you've got a whole nother business for that.
Yeah, that's true. I guess what I mean to say is if you have something that you use in your content or you have something that's aligned to what your followers are after and you're willing to put in the sacrifice to actually make the product your own, let's say like your rubs, it pays tenfold in the long run. And I haven't experienced this yet, but I hope that this is the manifesting speech of my theory coming true in the future with cookbooks and products and things like that.
Let's hope so.
To do the work, to create something good that is yours, to then sell on, so that people can enjoy something that you've put your heart and soul into versus just taking a quick buck to promote someone that they don't care about the customers. They don't. What are your thoughts on the difference between promoting somebody else's product and promoting your own?
Oh, well, you're going to have a quick win if you're promoting someone else's and they're paying you, but you're going to have a good, sustainable, long-term win if you're pushing your own, like something like a barbecue rub, or if you release the things that we've been talking about. It's something that's your own, like, is a long-term win, and it's going to be sustainable. It's not just a quick, here, promote this for us, here's some money, and you never speak to them again.
Well, one thing about brand deals you mentioned just before, this is about to be a really good segue. Are you ready, Aaron?
I'm ready.
You said that, sometimes it'd affect your brand if you're promoting too much and people would notice that you are, hey guys, buy this, buy this,
selling
buy
out
this.
type thing.
Yeah, selling out. And I worry about that sometimes because I think, okay, I need to make money and I think this is a line. Anyways, that's a separate scramble. What's been your strategy for dealing with online opinion? How do you handle trolls?
It's changed a lot over the 6-7 years I've been on social media. Like, it used to get to me at the start, I'm like, why do these, like, a handful of people just hate me and want to see me like fail? But used to reply to comments, get into message wars. But these days, like, I don't even waste energy on them. Like, that, if I don't know them and they don't know me, why should I value their opinion? I'll take on feedback and constructive criticism from people like reputable people. But if it's just some random username 637 with no profile picture, I don't give a shit about their opinion. Like, I'll just, if it's like, depending on the platform, like TikTok is hideous for it. I think that platform was created just for trolls to do their thing. Yeah. If it's
because it's rewarded. I mean, the funniest troll comment gets the most likes.
Yeah, and sometimes it can work in your favor. Like, we call them algorithm boosting comments. Like, trolls can do that, and it just creates. Sometimes it'll create a comment war between people who are your supporters, or if they disagree with their comment,
Aaron,
and then your video just keeps getting bumped up.
I think half the reason that my TikTok chicken palmy review series has done, I'm talking like, I'd say we'd be in the 20 millions of views at this point, right? Is yes, okay, let's say each video gets 300,000 to 500,000 views on the review. Sure, some of them might be like, oh my God, tag friend, let's go here, let's try it. Or other one would be like, hey Marcus, you should try this place in your next review. The other 50% are just people fighting about whether it's a palmy or a palmer. Like,
and my steak videos, and a lot of steak videos do the same thing. I cook a steak to, let's say, a medium rare. You'll get a bunch of people say, that's raw. That's raw. And then a bunch of people will be like, that's overcooked. Like, and then it just starts all these message wars and comment wars in the comment section. Fight,
and then you fucking
and
views
they're all
go up.
Algorithm boosting. So I just, even if it's not that, even if it's just on a few comment video, I'll just either delete it or just not give it. It's not worth my energy these days.
I like that.
And I know a lot of creators are worried about that. And a lot of people won't start social media because they're scared. Like, when we were on MKR, which we'll talk about more after, like you said, a lot of people didn't have social media before MKR, and they really struggled getting through the trolls.
Me and you were bulletproof.
Yeah, because we've dealt with it.
That is such a good point. A lot of the people going on television or MKR, they were thinking it'd just be a walk in the park. Everyone's gonna love me. It's gonna be great. No, everyone's got an opinion, and opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got them. I was the next bit here, Aaron. We could probably just get into my kitchen rules. Maybe a
segue into it.
Yeah, that is a good. I'm stubborn though. I've written here speed run. What are your top 5 tips for making successful YouTube videos? But you've kind of already said that.
Yeah, we've gone over that.
So I just kind of wasted another 10 seconds. I'm so sorry about that.
That's all right.
My kitchen rules. This is the part of the episode where we get sued. I'm kidding.
We could get sued.
I'm kidding. All right. It says give context on what the show is and what the show is about. Guys, essentially My Kitchen Rules. I grew up watching this with my mum as a kid. It's a TV show in Australia where teams of two go around the country versing other teams of two in dinner party cooking, essentially. Two celebrity judges. Last year's was Colin Fassnidge and Manu. Sorry. Two celebrity judges will then travel around Australia with the contestants, and they will grade the food. So essentially, you host a dinner party. There'll be an entree, a main, and a dessert. You cook your heart out. You hope for the best, and the people with the highest score go further into the competition and inevitably win a big grand cash prize. Now, with that context, that has been a popular show. I think we were season
13.
Season 13, right? Last year's season was a very interesting season. I think probably one of the most viewed MKRs of all time. This is what I heard from Channel 7.
That's crazy considering all the streaming platforms.
Yeah. So it was a good season. I represented South Australia with my mother. Aaron represented New South Wales with his friend Chris.
Yep.
And we competed against each other for a battle to death cooking. I don't know. Can you jump in here? Is there anything I missed for the context side?
No, not really. I would. Did you guys apply to go on, or did you get approached?
So this is the best part about social media, guys, is you never know who's watching. I was posting cooking videos all throughout the year, and I got a message from My Kitchen Rules. They messaged me on Instagram. Obviously, they're casting agents or whatever. Marcus, we think you'd be a great fit for the show. Do you have anybody that you would apply with? I called them on the spot. I said, what's your number? I'm going to call you right now. I said, I have the perfect person for you. My mum has taught me everything I know about cooking, and she is a super fan of this show. She's also the biggest fan of Nigella Lawson ever, and Nigella Lawson is on My Kitchen Rules. So when I called, I said, me and mum fight. We fight all the time. We love cooking, and mum's a super fan of the show. They're like, yep, you're in. It was like almost instant. So that was a whole process. There's the context. My first question to you is, what did you enjoy most about being on the show? Or should we tell them more about how the season went before we go?
Up to you. It's your podcast.
5 teams go around the country. 5 teams end up on a scoreboard. The team at the bottom gets excommunicated. The top team goes straight to the finals. Then we think that we're going to the next round, which is called Kitchen HQ, where you cook inside of a commercial kitchen, and it's more challenging.
We should lead up to the GC thing.
GC? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Then the next part happens is on the last night of that first round of cooking around the country, these people called the gate crashers, they rock up, Aaron being one of them, and they come in, and the judges inform us after, weeks of grueling filming and cooking and stressing and competing, hey guys, you're going back around the country. These new guys are coming straight back into the competition, and now you're cooking against them. And that is when I meant
we lead on to it, like you tell your story then, but...
Oh, no, well, yeah. Okay.
Too late now.
Okay. Well, this is why I said jump in, my bros.
It's all good.
Okay, hit me. Go, speak.
You've ruined it now.
Essentially, Aaron was a gate crasher. He popped up out of nowhere, and we competed against him. What was your favorite part about My Kitchen Rules last year, Aaron?
Oh, probably just challenging ourselves. Like, we did get to do a lot of cooking, and challenging yourself in a cooking competition, and having Manu, Colin, a bunch of random people at your house. So we cooked at Chris's house. So like Marcus said, I am from South Australia. For anyone watching, a lot of people thought I'd moved to New South Wales for some reason. But yeah, we cooked at Chris's house, and I
really did enjoy that. My favorite part about MKR was the fact that we got to travel around the country and almost, not that I wasn't doing food as a full-time career prior, but like we were cooks. Like full-time cooks, practicing food, writing recipes. I really enjoyed the amount. I learned more about food in 3 months just talking to Colin and Manu and talking to you guys and being around such like-minded people.
Yep.
In 3 months than I did 3 years of doing
Same,
that.
just like diving headfirst into it, and like you couldn't escape it, and it was good. Like you said, like hearing like Manu's stories, Colin's stories, getting to eat food from different cultures, like from Patrizia and Brigida, and then your Italian background, like just the range of food and their knowledge and cooking methods behind that was incredible.
It was honestly like a 3-month intensive of food.
Yeah, it was.
Like it was a lot. I will say, guys, one thing you wouldn't know about the show is like you watched the 60-second episode. I'm not going to say too much because I don't know what we can and can't say, but the filming process, genuinely, the word I'm going to use is grueling. Even if it is fun, the word grueling is what comes to mind. They're long days. We filmed so much more than you see. But also at the same time, it led to some really, really strong memories and relationships that still occur today.
Yeah.
We spend so much time around a table.
We do.
Know what I mean? Talking.
It's like 10, 12 hours plus.
Speaking of, well, I need to stop saying speaking of. It's like, speaking of apples, let's talk about oranges. What did you least enjoy about being on the show?
I don't know if I can say it.
Within your bounds. Within your bounds.
I don't know what my boundaries are, but
okay.
Probably the behind the scenes stuff, which I can't probably elaborate too much on.
Let's talk about the stuff we can talk about. For example, mine would be the idea that not all that glitters is gold.
Which you can't probably talk too much on either.
Okay, not on the production side. Let's just talk about our experience of being on TV, not our experience of being on MKR. A lot of people would come up to me like, Marcus, what's it like being on television? You're famous now. That's so cool. What was it like doing this, and that? I guess my least favorite thing was the fact that to me in my head, the whole time I was on the show and the whole time I was on TV, I was just myself.
Yeah.
Nothing really changed for me. I didn't see myself on TV and think, oh, I'm going to beat my chest now. Something about me has changed now that I'm on TV. That's so cool. I just remember I didn't really quite, maybe because I was in it, I didn't quite understand what people were saying, and it sort of frustrated me in a way because the feedback would sometimes be positive, sometimes it'd be negative, and
you're going to have that anyway. Like some of the nicest people on the show, they got trolled heaps online. I mean, I guess the least favorite thing for me was just the way they painted more. I didn't really care about how they painted me, but for Chris, because I know how much of a nice guy Chris is, how big his heart is, and they just sort of painted him as a bad guy throughout the whole season, which is definitely not him, as we both know.
I wanted to be upset about the whole idea of, because at the end of the day, guys, the whole point of storytelling is to build storylines, characters, and things that supplement the story to get more of an emotional response from you. So that's a car turning on. Sorry about the noise. Any good story that has you compelled and has you wanting to watch more has a beginning, a middle, an ending, an overall arc. Like each team had their own arc. Like for example, me and Mum, if you were to summarize our story, it was the shithead little son and the loving mum who supports her son. At first, they both have raw potential to be great cooks, but at first they don't work as a team and they kind of fail in the first round. But when they get their teamwork back together, and you'll see if you watch the episode, we ended up coming third over the whole show. We smacked that second round and came first. But the storyline that they painted was Marcus was a shithead, Mum and Marcus aren't working as a team. To later in the episode, and it was so much more rewarding because of the difficulty in the story of the first round, when they did work as a team, they were unbeatable. Now, I'm not going to say that's 100% exactly how it all happened, but it's the story nonetheless. And I try not to be upset about the whole painting thing, because at the end of the day, the way I rationalize MKR, looking back on it now, regardless of what I enjoyed, regardless of what I didn't, at the end of the day, me and you, what we have in common is that we want to share food with the world.
Yeah.
When My Kitchen Rules reached out to me, Aaron, I said, oh my God, they are just a bigger avenue of sharing food with the world. Yeah. I'm so ready to get on board.
I almost deleted the message.
Yeah.
Because I got approached as well through Instagram, and I thought it was a scam. I was like,
oh my God.
This message. And
oh my God.
Then I looked at the profile. I'm like, oh, it actually looks legit.
Real. Yeah.
And then I said, yep. And then that's when I asked Chris to go on, and then we became Team New South Wales, obviously, because they couldn't have two from Adelaide.
Yep.
And yeah.
Point of the matter is that they were the vehicle that I looked at as, oh my God, I just get to do what I'm doing on a bigger scale. Yeah. I can't wait to contribute to this. Then obviously, for those who have watched the show and for those who didn't, that first round, I was painted as a bit of a bumbling little, because I was the youngest person by a couple of years at least on that show. Probably one of the youngest.
Patricia and you were the two youngest ones.
She wasn't there yet.
Oh, yeah.
Point of the matter is I was painted a certain way, and I remember looking back and I was like, you MKR, you made me look evil. Blah, 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 blah. Obviously, we had our redemption and everything was good, and we were well liked by the audience. But the reason I don't think too much about it now, regardless of any painting, is because the way I've rationalized it is, if that's the character that needed to be displayed to get people interested in watching the show, to then get people interested in cooking, I will take that brunt hit. Either way. Yeah. Because at the end of the day...
Yeah, you were yourself and they painted you how they needed you to be painted.
Correct. And regardless of how many millions of people watch the show, I like the idea that, especially from the messages I've gotten, I loved you and your mum on MKR, I loved you on this, If it means that you got into cooking because I was on that show and you've had positive experiences because you watched something on the show that made you want to try this recipe or you... Yes. I accept. You know what I mean? That's the price I'm willing to pay. I'm okay with... public perception.
Yeah, that's a win. If you've Like I said, even if it's just one person who got into cooking because of that, that's a win.
Yeah. Okay. What's the biggest lesson you learned from being on the show?
Oh, wow. I actually learned a lot about behind the scene, like production quality, like how to arrange lighting and camera positions. It's weird. It sounds so weird to say that, but it was amazing seeing what happens behind the scenes in that respect. There was a lot of bad things, which we can't talk about, but yeah, seeing how the cameramen work and the whole crew works and what it takes to put a show like that together was mind-blowing.
And
absolutely mind-blowing.
If you worked on MKR and you're secretly watching this, shout out to you for being a trooper. Yep. God knows how much work went into.
Yeah, I did not realize how big of a production that is.
I know. As I'm going to use the finger signs if you're listening. Talent. We did a lot of work to produce that show, but the people filming, the people writing, the people producing, they were like an army. They were like soldiers. They even spoke in military time and military phrase. So there is a lot that goes into that, and I definitely took a lot of notes from that too.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for people who are looking for a career in TV? What should they expect? This is broad. You aren't outing yourself. And the more we talk about fucking what we can't say, the more we do it.
It's very different to how you probably perceive it.
Yeah, I would think.
But it depends on the show. Like at the end of it, I thought they would go more back to the cooking on that season, but they just went even more dramatic. I wasn't prepared for that much drama. I don't like drama.
No, that makes sense. What maybe something to consider would be, okay, depends what your priorities and goals are. For me, I thought, okay, from a purpose perspective, oath, I get to share food with the world. If me and mum's connection is something that inspires other mothers and sons to get in the kitchen, I will sacrifice myself on TV for the people. And that's what I did. But also I thought to myself, okay, well, this might give some validity to my business. This is great. I'm already a food creator. I'm already in food media. I already do this and that, which is pretty much just a smaller version of MKR. I'll bundle onto this.
Yeah. I guess it's different. Like if you want to challenge yourself in a certain area, depending on what cooking show it is, I mean, just show in general it is, go for it. Like there's so many different avenues you can explore. Like it can increase your business. You can, like, even if you just want to challenge yourself, like there's...
It can teach you less. Yeah. You'll definitely gain something from being on TV. Just be sure about what it is that you are trying to gain. Because
like going into it, I said I wanted to challenge myself and spread barbecue. And that was...
exactly what you did.
A mission accomplished.
It's actually what you did. I like that. It's interesting though. The next question, because I've been talking about the business side of it, which is like, you look at like any of the Married at First Sight people or the Love Islands, they're all doing it for business. None of them are passionate about finding love.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. Yeah. At least with us, and this is why I still get along with you, especially us. Some people on the show weren't really big on food. They were just big on TV. That's my opinion. That's not me throwing shade. I guess it is kind of me throwing shade. I'm sorry. Drum roll. Point of the matter is that I really love that the people I got along with most on that My Kitchen Rules show were the people who were genuinely there because they love food and they were there for food, and they're still doing food now. Needless to say, people understand that when you go on TV, there's probably some sort of monetary or status or business related result that comes from it. My question is, did the TV appearance really help your business?
Not at all. You're only got to look at the previous season's winners and their following to sort of know it doesn't do much for you.
Is there anything that any parallels or correlations that you can draw from that in the sense of, for me, I look at the show and I think, thank you in terms of how did it help my business? Perhaps it gave me a level of validity.
Yeah.
It gave me, people might trust me, my recipes a little bit more. But in terms of like this first, what I was doing on social media, I look at like, if you can just understand the social media game, you don't need TV.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Discuss the difference. I've written here, discuss the difference between traditional and social media and the value of connecting with your audience. I've written that there in the sense of like TV, cool, you can reach people, but your connection with the people you teach.
I think about that a lot from a business perspective and how it's shifting a lot. Why would you advertise on TV anymore? Like who's watching, like...
We were watching TV.
No, only because we were on there. But how much more time do you spend on your phone as opposed to the TV?
Yeah, it's true. But
I watch more YouTube than I watch TV. I think a lot of people do. I mean, maybe the older generation is still watching a lot of TV, but
there are still a lot of people watching TV.
Yeah,
there are still a lot. I only say that to push back on you in the sense of I think the main distinction there for people like us, we were social media foodies who went on to TV foodie, right?
Yeah.
And we've looked at both worlds now. And we're like, okay, which one would we rather live in? Stay in TV foodie world or go back to social media world?
Definitely social media.
The reason I would choose social media is because of that connection with the audience. There is an audience on TV, but I like the idea that in the long run, social media allows you to actually build relationships with these people.
Yeah.
Where there's TV, we're on it, people talked about us, and then we're off it.
Yeah.
Then it was done.
Yeah.
This one here, there's more love over here.
Yeah. I mean, it's as a contestant, obviously that's the case. Like for people like Colin and Manu's been on it for 13, 14 years. So obviously he's been able to build his things off it that he can leverage, which is what we're doing on social media, I guess.
So I guess it's the same hustle, different avenue.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
I was going to ask, what were the judges like? What would you do it again? But I feel like we've kind of already got your answers on those. My next topic and the last topic to wrap up the episode, biggest life lessons and future goals. If you could summarize everything you've done and learned up until this point, Aaron, what would you say is the main message or theme that's guided your life so far?
Yeah, wow. I think I've mentioned it a few times, like finding what you love doing and being consistent at it. Like they were probably the two key things for me. Like I've loved meat from a young age, becoming a butcher, and it's progressed into what I do now through consistency and hard work. And like I mentioned earlier, making each piece of content better than the last and just always learning and evolving, getting out your comfort zone have all been probably the keys to my success.
What pushes you the most, Aaron?
Just not wanting to get back into the 9-to-5 lifestyle. I don't want that. I want to be able to spend more time with my family and do things I've always wanted to do. And I've got more time to look after my health. I've got more time to travel and just whatever I want to do, I can pretty much do it if I plan
Freedom.
to do it. Yeah.
I don't know how much you'd want to talk about this on the podcast, but I know you are a father and I respect you a lot for it because I'm, again, like I said at the start of the episode, I'm a little young chicken, bro. I got no responsibility. I'm a little puppy kid. I try my best to take on responsibility because I know, like, similar to my Nonna's immigration story, the more work you take on early, the more you'll be better off in the long run. Is there anything that you'd say to the fathers out there or the people who are fighting for something other than just themselves? Why pursue the business? Is it for the kids?
Yeah, like I wanted to have a better work-life balance, and now I can spend that spare time with my two boys, and I get to take them to places during the week. We can take time off, like I'm going to Melbourne with my eldest in a couple of weeks for his birthday. I can do that because I've got that flexibility. I just wanted to give myself the best work-life balance I possibly can so I can spend time with my family.
I like that you're clear on what your values are and you're clear on what you do value in terms of especially how your time is spent. And you've built a life around that.
And it also shows my boys you can achieve your dreams, but at the same time I also want them to understand the real 9-to-5 work. I don't want them to grow up and when they become 16 or 18 just walk into a role like I'm doing now. I want them to experience
both.
Real work, the real world, and then work towards something like I'm doing now.
It's interesting. And speaking of segues, I'm going to segue into the last bit of this podcast. And it's great because you're already speaking about kids and the next generation. It says, what do you hope for the audience listening right now? What does the world need at the moment? And maybe look at this through the scope of what you hope to instill in your kids. Values, thought processes, decision-making.
God, what a question. So the world's pretty messed up in some areas at the moment. Yeah, it's a good one. What would you say?
Discipline. That's something I struggle with myself, but I know all of the best.
You think the world needs discipline?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think all of the best parts about me and all of my accomplishments come from my discipline, and all of the worst parts about me and all of the things that I've done wrong in my life come from lack of discipline. It's the biggest one. Discipline. And I don't mean, hey world, you need to learn discipline. I think it's the values behind discipline. Long-term thinking, long-term decision making, love for oneself and taking the best route for you, not the one that feels the best.
And I guess a lot of the things I've spoken about require discipline. Being consistent takes discipline. Making each piece of content better than the last takes discipline. Working hard takes discipline. Setting a routine takes discipline. So yeah, it's a good one.
Anything that comes to mind in terms of
probably more, it sounds so like, well, I hate to say it, but it's true. The world needs more like peace and love. I hate trolling, like people who troll other people for trying to succeed in their dreams. Like they're just the scum of the earth. Would love to see more people get away from the trolling space and more into encouraging people to achieve their
Correct.
dreams, because that's why a lot of people don't start,
Mm.
because they're afraid of trolls and idiots online.
It's interesting the way it goes in a cycle too, in the way that if you let's be real here. I'm with you. Let's spread more positivity.
Yeah.
I'm 100% with you. Yet both of us will sometimes at times find ourselves frustrated or angry or resentful. And I'm not saying that we're resentful people. What I mean to say is that to show someone grace when you disagree with them or you might not see things the same way, it actually takes effort. More effort than it takes to just be a bot and get angry and be a troll, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's your excuse to be a troll. Where I'm going with this is that grace comes in a circle. And if you can't take the work to show that grace to somebody else, high chance they're not going to take the work to show the grace to you.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is it's a shame that being a troll is so damn easy.
It is.
So maybe what I could hope for the world is, how do you ask someone to force themselves to show more grace? Like, it's hard. It's a skill.
You can, like, a lot of the trolling comments, you'll sort of address them in a kind way, and a lot of the time they'll turn around and be like, oh, sorry, I was like just joking, or I actually like your content, or I was just trying to have some banter. Like,
how do you say it to your kid? Like, let's say your kid's going through school and there are bullies out there or there's some sort of disagreement. How do you say that as a dad to them? Like, hey, not everyone's going to agree with you. Like, how do you translate that?
Yeah, I guess I'm starting to have those conversations with my eldest as he's going through school and dealing with that sort of thing. I guess, for me, I just always say, look, just walk away. It's not worth your time. Yeah, it's not worth your time. Like, you don't start anything, but you always finish it. Like,
last question. This has nothing to do with the topics we've discussed on the podcast at all.
Yeah,
but it's kind of on the vein of what we're talking about. Have you learned anything from your kids? As an adult who's successful in business and you've had your storyline of growth, you've got kids that you're raising. Have they ever taught you anything?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. More patience, creativity. I love how creative a child's mind is. And I hate how suppressed a child's mind can get. Like, if they've got an imaginary friend or they think they can see things, or like everyone's like, no, that's not real. That's not real. Like, let them be creative. Like, obviously there's boundaries to that, but yeah, definitely creativity and patience, because you got to have a lot of patience.
So you take inspiration from them. Like, they give you ideas. Oh my God, I could try that.
Just their creative thinking is amazing. Just to have a chat with them and hear what's going through their head, or if I'm like, if they're trying my meat, like, just to hear their reaction, like, it's amazing. Just definitely creativity and patience. They've taught me a lot.
A very well said last bit of the podcast, guys. That was the Mouthful with Marcus. This was Aaron. You can find him at Low and Slow Basics. He's doing a lot of cool shit coming up. If you're watching this, make sure to subscribe. Press the like button. I appreciate you guys listening, viewing, watching, and subscribing. The world needs a little bit more imagination and a little bit more playtime. And just because you're 40 doesn't mean that you can't play with
whatever you want to play with.